First, he's a former ambassador to the U.S. and a current member of Israel's parliament. We're getting a first-hand account of the sometimes tense relationship between the two nations coming up. He is one of the great minds of Israeli politics and history. Michael Oren was Israel's ambassador to the U.S. from 2009 to 2013, and tonight he was in Atlanta.
He was. Ambassador Oren has written a memoir entitled Ally. He is immensely critical of the Obama administration and their dealings with Israel. The book has stirred the pot globally, and I spoke with him here inside our 11 Alive studios today. Ambassador Michael Oren, an American-born Israeli historian, author, politician, and former ambassador to the United States between 2009 and 2013, and a member of the Knesset. He has written a fascinating new book entitled Ally, My Journey Across the American-Israeli Divide. It came out in June, and it describes the recent state of Israel and United States relations, which have been frayed, as everyone knows. The book has received both praise and criticism. He is in Atlanta for the Marcus Jewish Book Festival. Ambassador, it is great to have you here. And before we start talking about the book, I wanted to get your view on Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit to the United States, along with the successor to you as the ambassador to the United States. Was that a mistake, coming to Congress and making this speech, which was so divisive in this country? At this point, I don't remember the speech, but I do remember the whole temperature of this visit.
First of all, Jeff, thanks for having me on. Great to be in Atlanta. You know, I worked very closely with Prime Minister Netanyahu for nearly 5 years when I was ambassador. I wasn't a member of his party. I'm not a member of his party now, though I'm currently a member of Israel's Knesset. It's our parliament, and I was critical of the speech. Not an easy call for me, by the way, and I was critical for the reason that I think you're indicating. It was going to be a divisive speech. I agreed 1,000% with its content, and I do remember the content very well. It was very similar to the content of the Prime Minister's speech in the United Nations last week, where he talks about this is a bad deal.
But that was a great speech. I mean, the 45 seconds of silence was dramatic stuff that I think really gives a new view of the whole Iran issue. I
think it was terrific, and I got to say, I worked on that speech. I did not come up with the silent idea. I wish I had. But yeah, I was afraid that it would take, the speech in Congress would take the focus away from the deal and put it more on sort of the partisan issue, Republicans versus Democrats. In retrospect, I don't really know if it would have made much difference. The administration put all of its weight onto this deal, put tremendous pressure on those who were sort of wavering, and it probably would have passed anyway. Now we have to look forward and say, okay, you know, we fought the good fight. How now do we address the great dangers to Israel, not just to Israel, to some of our neighbors that have been generated by this deal? How do we, how can the United States help Israel defend itself? How can we deter Iran? These are questions which the Prime Minister is going to answer when he meets with President Obama at the beginning of November.
A lot of talk in Israel and a lot of talk here in Atlanta about closing the consulate here in Atlanta. Are you opposed to that idea?
I don't think it's a good idea. I think the Atlanta Jewish community is a very important community. But more than that, our relationships with Georgia, the state of Georgia, our commercial relations, our scientific relationships with all the states in this area are crucial for Israel. And I think we should do our utmost to make sure that that consulate remains open.
Your book has caught a lot of heat from the left in this country, that it is an anti-Obama memoir. What's your response to that?
You haven't read the reviews from the right. the right has got to say big, it's too good to Obama, you know, which tells me I'm doing something right here. I'm doing something right because I'm getting it from the right and the left. Because I thought it was very important to tell Israel's version of a story, particularly as we moved into the Iran debate. And it's not an easy story, but it's not, you know, it's not black and white.
This book is absolutely a marvel. Let me hold it up.
Thank you very much.
Buy it now. Thank you. Great honor to be with you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Whether you agree with what he has written or not, it is fascinating. He has taken a lot of heat. If you Google his name and you check out some of the book reviews, he has said that President Obama has embraced the Muslim world out of abandonment of his own father. And I said, how would you write that? How can you ascertain that? He said, I'm a historian, and I am able to look at President Obama's history, and that is what I have been able to surmise.
Wow, that's a fascinating perspective.
Very controversial.
Would have loved hearing more from him. People in Atlanta had the opportunity to do so. He spoke this evening. He's actually the prologue to the Jewish Community Center's 24th Annual Book Festival.
What a great festival
He kicks it off. Mitch Albom coming. Dr. Ruth Westheimer is coming. Alan
She's
Dershowitz.
still around. We don't see much of her on TV
I think she's about
anymore.
87 years young.
Yeah.
Former NBC newsman David Gregory is coming, along with Mitch Albom. Did I just mention that?
Yep.
Judy Blume, one of my
Yeah,
favorites from my childhood.
Yeah.
About 40-plus authors coming.
Mitch Albom, former sports writer of the Detroit Free Press, who wrote Tuesdays with Maury. Yeah, this is a great event. It's a great event. You should check it out. Okay.